안녕하세요 여러분 and welcome back to our weekly Korean series. I feel like I have not talked about complicated Korean grammar in a while. So that's exactly what I'm going to be trying to do today. I obviously will not be able to cover every single aspect of the topic I want to talk about, which is indirect speech in Korean. So what I want you guys to do is be prepared for an enormous amount of upcoming videos that are going to be talking about different aspects of indirect speech in Korean. I've been dreading this moment. I've been dragging it out for so long because I myself was not too familiar with it. I'll be trying to help you guys learn indirect speech in Korean. Let's get into it. So indirect speech basically means quoting someone, or even yourself in certain situations. So me saying that he said he doesn't want food, or she said she'll be going to Korea next week, is basically using indirect speech. In English, we can see that the subject and the verb are next to each other in the sentence, and then goes the quoted part. In Korean, like we know, the verb goes at the end of the sentence, the subject is usually in the beginning, and the quoted part is in the middle. Those of you who have substantial knowledge of Korean already, you guys will probably think, let's use direct modifying to modify the quote clause and turn it into a noun so that it can later on be described by the final verb. This way of thinking is logical and intuitive, which is great, but unfortunately indirect speech in Korean is counterintuitive, and we do not use the 있는 것, we do not use direct modifying. What we do use is a plain/diary form of conjugating Korean verbs. The reason why it's sometimes called diary form is because it's very neutral and very informal, almost like you're writing in your own diary about just objective facts that happened during your day. So in order to create a sentence where you're quoting someone, we would need to use plain conjugation. But how do we do it? How do we use it? I've actually gotten a lot of questions from you guys saying that, oh, I've seen this form of conjugation being used a lot in K-dramas and in conversations. How do we use it? When do we use it? So, ta-da! Here is the way you use it. One of the ways. So what I want you to do now is pause this video, head over to the description box, click on the blog post link where I will have a table with most common Korean verbs and the plain/diary conjugation of them in past, present, and future tense. So pause this video, go there, get yourself familiar with it. We'll be using it extensively throughout this entire episode. So the blog post is going to be your main help. All right, now that you've looked at the table, let's see how we can turn an English sentence, she said she will go to Korea next week, into a Korean sentence. First of all, let's establish the simple parts, the subject and the verb. So she would be 그녀는, 는 is the subject marking particle, 그녀, she said, which comes from the word 말하다 and is conjugated in past tense 말했어요. Alright? Simple for now. 그녀는 말했어요. She said. But then what about this in-between clause? Next week she will go to Korea. Let's just think about it as a separate sentence. 다음 주에, next week, 한국에서 to Korea, 갈 거예요, will go. So technically, if we put it all together, we'll end up with something like 그녀는 다음 주에 한국에서 갈 거예요 말했어요. Doesn't really make sense, does it? Because we have two verbs that are conjugated and they kind of clash with each other because, well, you're not supposed to have two verbs that are conjugated in that way in a sentence. So what we do is that we take the verb in the quote, we conjugate it in the plain or the diary form. So if you look at the table, what is the future tense conjugation of 가다 in plain form? Yes, it's 가겠다. So then all we need to do is we need to somehow connect this conjugated verb to the final verb, and we do that using a connective particle, which is, yes, it is the 고 connective particle. So what we end up with is 가겠다고 말했어요. So the final sentence with all the bits and pieces combined is going to sound like 그녀는 다음 주에 한국에서 가겠다고 말했어요. 그녀는 다음 주에 한국에서 가겠다고 말했어요. Ta-da! Hopefully this made sense. So what I'm gonna do now is just play around with all sorts of tenses, conjugations, and other things that you can do to the sentence to make it longer, more complicated, maybe more natural. So let's do this. First of all, we need to realize that we can actually conjugate the quoted part in past and present tense as well. So let's do that. Alright, so let's say our friend said that she's going to Korea today. That is going to sound like 그녀는 오늘, today, 한국에서 간다고, 간다, present tense, plain conjugation, 간다고 말했어요. 그녀는 오늘 한국에서 간다고 말했어요. What about past tense? What if she said that she went to Korea last month? So what we would say would be 그녀는 지난 달 last month 한국에서 갔다고 말했어요. Furthermore, what we can do is conjugate the final verb because she could be saying what she's saying right now, or she can maybe say it in the future. So how do we do that? Very simple. We all know conjugation, but let's go through this just to cement the knowledge in your head. So taking our original sentence and saying that she is saying right now that she will go to Korea. Was it next week? Yeah. So it would sound like 그녀는 다음 주에 한국에서 가겠다고 말하고 있어요. She's saying right now that she will be going to Korea next week. I have construction works outside my window, and these windows have absolutely zero soundproofness. This is driving me nuts. Alright, so let's pretend that she will say in the future that she will be going to Korea next week. I know it's a bit of an awkward sentence in terms of logic, but grammatically it is still correct. So, it would be 그녀는 다음 주에 한국에서 가겠다고 말할 거예요. She will say that she will go to Korea next week. In addition to all this, we can actually add the recipient of the quote. We can specify who that person said whatever they said to. To do that is really simple. All we need to do is add 에게 to the recipient. So let's say this girl will tell her mother that she will be going to Korea next week. So it would sound like 그녀는 엄마에게 다음 주에 한국에서 가겠다고 말할 거예요. So she will tell her mom she will be going to Korea next week. Lastly, we all should know by now that Koreans love to shorten their sentences and make them more simple, less complicated. I mean, really, why would you even want a more complicated language? So what they do a lot, instead of using 말하다, they actually just use 하다. Taking our original sentence that we've been playing around this entire time, it would sound casually and really naturally like this. 그녀는 다음 주에 한국에서 가겠다고 했어요. She said she will go to Korea next week. It's really natural to say this. It is perfectly fine. Other examples would be 그는 공부하지 않았다고 했어요. He said he didn't study. Or 저는 밥을 안 먹었다고 했어요. I said I didn't eat anything, or I didn't eat rice, depending on how you use pop. Alright, so that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it wasn't too difficult for you all. Let me know if you have any questions or if there is anything that you want me to cover in our upcoming weekly Korean episodes. Don't forget, we still haven't covered quoting with adjectives, quoting with the verb 있다, making questions with indirect speech, so there is just so much we still haven't covered about indirect speech, and I will definitely make sure to cover it in the upcoming episodes. So please, please, please stay tuned, subscribe to my channel, and let's learn Korean together. Yay! Alright, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful end of the week. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all next week. Bye! 안녕!